welcome back to the R2F Sports channel. It's been a year since I last posted, but I figured I could do my yearly video on the Premier League table. We are on the BBC Sport website. I'm going to go through all 20 places. So let's start off with 20th. With 20th, I think Norwich is going to end 20th. They've obviously lost Buendia, and it's always a bad thing if you lose your best player going into the Premier League. They haven't really brought in many good players. They brought in two players from Werder Bremen. They brought in Rashica, and they brought in the American striker. I'm blanking on his name right now. I don't think that's enough to get them above 20th or 19th place. Overall, I think they will struggle this year. So then going to 19th, I think Watford's a safe bet for relegation this year. Watford just don't look that good in preseason so far. I know it's only preseason. Their full team's not really playing. I think the worst part about them is that one of the best players from last year, Will Hughes, the defensive mid, he doesn't look like he wants to play for them anymore. I've seen a lot of transfer rumors about him, so we'll see where he ends up. Overall, I don't think their forwards look too well either. Obviously, they brought in Emmanuel Dennis, but over half the lineup is forwards, so that could be a bad morale for the team if they just have 20 forwards in and no one knows if they're playing or not. And let's see, 18th. See, I'm thinking of a few teams for 18th. I'm thinking of either Southampton, because obviously they lost a lot of players. Considering Newcastle, but I think Steve Bruce will do just enough to keep them up. And the other team I'm thinking of is Brentford and Burnley, just because Brentford are another new team. I hate putting three teams down for relegation, though. I'm going to throw Southampton in there. Southampton obviously lost Danny Ings, a crucial goal scorer for them. They did bring in Adam Armstrong, but I don't think Adam Armstrong is quite going to bring what Danny Ings did. I think they're going to struggle the whole year, obviously losing 15 of the last 21 games of last season. So with that being said, I don't think they have enough quality to stay up this year, or they'll finish in 16th or 17th place. And then going into 17th place, who we have left that could finish this low? Yeah, we'll go with Brentford. Brentford, we'll see how Ivan Toney can translate his success of last season with 31 goals, 10 assists. I have him in my fantasy team. I think he's crucial to be there at 6.5 million. But I think they're going to struggle this whole year being a new club, not really bringing many players in. They haven't lost anyone, which is good, but I think they're going to struggle throughout the season. 16th, I think it has to be Burnley. Burnley, they haven't brought in anyone, they haven't lost anyone, but they finished 17th last year. I think they could be tipped for relegation as well. Obviously, Sean Dyche, last year of his contract, so look for them to maybe get rid of him midway through the season just to bring in someone fresh to refresh their season, or they might just see him out and give him a new deal. But I think they'll barely escape relegation. They looked like they've been relegated last year after how bad it was. I think they did escape by like 7 points, though. I think they're going to struggle throughout this year. Obviously, these 5 bottom teams, I think these are the top tip teams for relegation just based on players they brought in, last season results. And yeah, I think these are my bottom 5 teams. On the 15th, I'm going to throw Newcastle in here. I think Steve Bruce has just enough to keep them up. Callum Wilson, obviously, I think he's going to look really good this year. Him, as long as St. Maximin can stay healthy the whole year, I think they'll be staying up. Those 2 players alone, I think, are good enough to help them throughout this whole season, score enough goals for them. Obviously, Willock is coming back for them, so I think he's going to be huge for them. He got Player of the Month in the last month in the Premier League, getting Newcastle, I believe, in the 13th place or 12th place, but they had enough quality at the end of the season to get up there. So I think they won't get relegated, but I think they're going to finish between the 13th to 16th range. And the 14th, who should be 14th? I'm going to throw, it's between Wolves and Brighton for me. Personally, I'm going to throw Brighton since they haven't signed a new forward as I'm making this video. You can have all the XG you want, but that's not going to help you from scoring any goals. Obviously, they were top 5 in expected goals, but if you have Neil Maupay up front, I don't think that's going to help. Obviously, losing Ben White, it slots Veltman into defense for them, but I don't think that's enough. I think Lamptey's still injured as well, so I think their backline is going to struggle this year. Sanchez is obviously a really good goalkeeper, was called to the Spanish national team, but I don't think that's enough to catapult them further. Obviously, they could finish top 9 with how many goals they could be scoring this year, but I don't think they have enough quality going forward to where they're going to lose a bunch of dumb games like they did last season. Now into 13th. 13th, I'm going to throw Wolves here. Obviously, I think they could definitely finish lower. I think a lot of Wolves fans are not looking forward to the season at all compared to the last few seasons. Nuno is gone. NES, yeah, out of here. He's gone to Spurs, surprisingly. But I think they're gonna kind of struggle more this year. Obviously, struggle is the theme of all these bottom teams. I don't really know how their new philosophy is going with their new coach. They haven't really brought in many players. Obviously, Raul Jimenez being back, that could catapult them forward up the table. But him wearing the headbands, I don't know if he's actually going to play every game. Losing Rui Patricio, I don't know how big of a factor that is either. We'll see, because he is kind of an old goalkeeper, but goalkeepers generally go to they're like 35 to 40. So I've placed them here. Yeah, I think they're a team we could see go realistically anywhere in the table. In the 12th, I think this is a good spot to put Crystal Palace. Now, I am a Crystal Palace fan, so this might be a bit of bias, but I'm really looking forward to the season with Patrick Vieira in charge. I think he's going to have a fantastic year with the club, bringing a lot of quality signings. I think a big player for the season is actually going to be Conor Gallagher, who's on loan from Chelsea. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace go in to try to buy him next year as well. He's going to be a big factor going forward. And then obviously you have Zaha coming back. I know Eze's out for like half the season, and Olise, who was another big target they signed, he's out for the first month or so. But I think once he comes back and once Eze comes back, this team will be a top team. A lot of people have Patrick Vieira getting sacked in the first month or two, similar to a Frank de Boer situation, but I think they'll be fine this year. Into 11th place, I'm going to throw Everton into 11th place. I don't think they've made enough signings to where it's going to benefit them. They've found Townsend, which I don't think that's enough quality for them to place any higher. I know they finished 10th last year, but the other teams around them are just getting better. So I think 11th is the right spot for them. We'll see how Rafa Benitez does with this team. I know a lot of Everton fans are not happy with that managerial signing, but we'll see how they do. I don't think they'll finish any lower than 12th. I think they can finish as high as 7th though. But we'll see. Obviously, I think Calvert-Lewin might struggle in the system. He is still in my fantasy team though. Obviously, he's out for the first. He might be out for the first week. I know he has a little knock on him, but I think he could be very successful yet struggle at the same time. He might not look very good in the system. I think Richarlison might be a big player this year, actually. So I could see them finishing obviously as high as 7th, but with a new head coach and everything, new system, I think it might take a little bit to get used to it. In the 10th place, I'm going to throw West Ham in the 10th place. I think West Ham, obviously the last time they were in Europa League, they ended up finishing like 16th place. But that was kind of the regression of Payet. Payet obviously had an amazing year for them, which was like 5 years ago. They got Europe. They ended up having a terrible year, but doing well in Europe. So I think that could kind of be a weird season for them. Benrahma, them buying him last year, he obviously was brilliant for them despite not scoring or assisting much. But he moved them forward up the pitch a lot, and I think he's gonna score a lot of goals, have a lot of assists this year. I think he's gonna have a major impact. They managed to hold on to Declan Rice, which is huge for them. So overall, if Mikel Antonio can stay healthy, I think they can finish anywhere around mid-table or higher. It might be kind of a harder year for them just because of squad depth, but I think 10th is an appropriate spot for them. Going to 9th, I'm gonna put Leeds in 9th. I'm either thinking Leeds or Villa. I think these are the two next teams. Yeah, we're gonna go with Leeds. I think Leeds are gonna finish 9th. They've had not too much done in the transfer window. Obviously, they brought in Junior Firpo from Barcelona. I think he can help them a little bit on the left back side, but I believe they use a 3-back or a 5-back, one or the other. So we'll see if he's implemented into the team. They signed Jack Harrison on a full from City. So obviously he's a quality signing for them. I think he's going to be huge in fantasy this year. So he's definitely a player you should look to bring in. Obviously they have Rafinha. I think he's also going to be really good for them. Leeds always have a really good attack. The thing that they struggle with is their defense. Backline, they let up, I think they were top 7 in goals against, or top 8, something like that. They let up a lot of goals, but they scored a lot of goals. That's what their thing was last year. I think they'll continue into that season, but improve their defense a little bit. So that's why I have them 9th. Bamford, in terms of fantasy value, I think he's way too expensive. So I'd stay away from him unless he drops to like maybe 7.5, because I believe he's at 8 or 8.5. So I think I'd stay away from him if you're looking for him for fantasy. In the 8th, this is where it gets kind of complicated because I think Villa had a really good window. Obviously, losing Grealish kind of hurts for them. But then again, Grealish did miss like 12 games last season. Yeah, we're gonna throw Villa here. So Villa 8th. I think the lowest Villa finishes this year is, I think, in the same boat as Everton. They're Everton, Villa, Leeds, West Ham. I think those 4 teams are very interchangeable. They're all kind of similar to me. Villa had a fantastic transfer window despite losing their best player. Brought in Leon Bailey from Leverkusen. I think he's going to be really good for them as long as he stays healthy. Because I think he had a really bad ankle injury, which ended his season for Leverkusen. And he didn't play in the last game for Jamaica in the Gold Cup. So I think he's going to be big there. Yeah, I think they're going to have an interesting year without Grealish, obviously, but I think they can finish pretty high. On the 7th, this is complicated because I want to place either Arsenal or Spurs here because I think Leicester are better than the two. So we're going to place Arsenal just because of how bad they've looked in preseason so far. I think they're going to be fine because, well, not necessarily fine, but bringing in Ben White, way too expensive, but he obviously is a really good player. So I think he'll help them out defensively. Him and Gabriel. I don't know what Arteta does because he likes a back 4 and a back 5. So he'll start Tierney at left wing back sometimes. Sometimes he'll start Tierney at center back if they do a 3-back. So I think Ben White and Gabriel need to be this 2 starting center backs. Obviously, goalkeeper's always a question since they got rid of Emi Martinez last year. Obviously, they should have kept him, but I think they were too complacent with keeping Leno on the team because they spent so much money on him. They need Aubameyang to stay healthy. Obviously, he missed training or missed a game because he was late in traffic. He had malaria. They need him to stay healthy. I think Saka is going to really have a big year for them. I think he's obviously the best player on the team, but I think it's a matter of his goal contribution this year. So I think because of that, Arsenal finished 7th. In the sixth, this is where I'm placing Spurs. They do have a new coach in NES, but I'm not too sure about them. I think they might finish lower, actually. I definitely don't think they're going to finish higher. I think Son's going to have a huge year, but obviously there's still the doubt and if Harry Kane will be on the team or not. With that, I'm not too sure about them. They did bring in Romero, who had a really good year with Atalanta last year. So I think with that, their defense will look more solid this year, but I think they will definitely struggle this year. In the fifth, this is where I'm going to put Leicester. Leicester, obviously, great team. To me, the best transfer window of any team, bringing in Patson Daka. They bought in Boubakary Soumare and a few other players. I think those are definitely improvement players. And having Soumare in at that more defensive mid role can push Tielemans up the field more. And Daka is a new refreshing legs so that maybe Vardy won't have to play as much. And then they have Ike Nacho, who's really good last year as well. So I think they can honestly finish top four and maybe kick out potentially Chelsea or Liverpool. Obviously, that's a strange statement to say because Chelsea had such a good year last year, especially when Tuchel came in, or Tycho, or however you say his name. When they brought him in, they were like a top three team. But I, yeah, I think Leicester could finish anywhere from third, fourth, fifth. They could definitely push out one of the top teams because they were in a top four position for I think 90% of last year until like the last two games or something like that. So I think they're definitely a team to look out for and can definitely finish in one of those top four places for Champions League. So getting in Champions League in this fourth spot, ooh, I see a lot of people placing Liverpool here. And the reasoning behind it is because of AFCON. But if you look at the games they're gonna miss, they're only gonna miss two games for Mane and Salah, and that's for I think one of the games against Palace, which they've had Palace's number last 3 years. So fourth place, I'm gonna throw Chelsea into fourth place. Now I'm not too high on Chelsea this year. I think Abramovich is too impatient with his managers. Obviously, firing Mourinho multiple times, firing Lampard, although I think the Lampard one was necessary. I think everyone's looking at who's going to be the first manager fired and always look at Watford or looking at Vieira because he's new there, or maybe even Rafa Benitez. But honestly, I might tip it towards Tuchel, Tuchel, however you say his name. I think he might be the first manager sack just because Chelsea are way too impatient with their managers and what they expect from their managers, trying to get them first in the league, win Champions League, win every single cup possible. So I think Abramovich is way too impatient with him that he might end up getting fired. I could be proven wrong and they could win the league because they seem to win the league every 3 years or so. But yeah, Chelsea in fourth for me. In the third, see, this is a tough one. I'm not too sure on Man City this year. Obviously, they had the most depth of any team out there, but they did sign Grealish for a lot of money. I'm gonna throw Liverpool in the third, just because obviously they did fix a big issue last year of not having a lot of depth, but I think that could obviously put them into first or second. This might be one of the most interesting title races this year between our top five teams. Liverpool, obviously, I talked earlier how Mane and Salah not going to miss a lot of games because of AFCON, only two, I believe it is, in the month of December. So it shouldn't be that big of a loss, especially because they have, I believe, Harvey Elliott um, and Diogo Jota and Firmino. I think that front three, maybe even Minamino if he's still there. I think those three or four should do fine for those two games that they're absent for. And then as well, they fixed their depth issue in defense, bringing in Konate from RB Leipzig. I think that's a brilliant signing for them, especially if Gomez, Van Dijk, Matip are all injured again this year. I saw that Robertson's out, so I have brought into Simiakis into my FPL team. So if you have three Liverpool assets, or two Liverpool assets right now, I definitely bring him in as one of them. On the second, I really like what Man U's done with signings, so I'm considering them having them win the league, but I don't know if they can win the league with Ole as their manager. So I'm gonna put Man U second. Um, I think Man U can win the league this year. So I'm doing the exact same top four that finished last year. Well, top five. But yeah, this is difficult because Man U brought in Sancho. Seems like for Dortmund, every time Sancho would score, they'd win a game or get a goal contribution. Obviously, he has like 30 goals, over 50 assists, and like 100 games there. So I think he is definitely a player that can catapult them into first. But because of Man City's depth, I think that's why I'm going to place them first. Um, I think they will go with a strikerless system for most of this year, with maybe a false nine with De Bruyne in that nine position. They did that a lot last year, or even Foden that, but I think Foden and De Bruyne are out the first week. So this should be a really interesting year for them. I'm really tempted to put Man U over them or even catapult Chelsea up there, but I'm just unsure. There's a lot of question marks surrounding them about how they're going to fare this year. But yeah, I think this is going to be my overall table. Norwich, Watford, Southampton is my three relegated teams. City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea as my four Champions League teams. So yeah, if you've liked this, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content. I'm going to be trying to post more, and leave a comment on your bottom three, your top four, and your 10th place team, or your team that you're going to be surprised with most this year.